Welcome to the Commissioner's Report. I'm Miles Vance. If you've been paying attention to the national news, you've probably heard of data centers. These facilities can be used for anything from cloud services to AI machine learning. And in today's digital world, they're being built in both urban and rural locations. And there might even be one coming to Polk County. Joining me today is County Commissioner Bill Braswell, alongside Doug Firstenberg, a principal at Stonebridge. Welcome to the show.
Great to be here, thanks.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Mr. Firstenberg, there's a lot of talk about data centers. We hear about it all over the national news, especially up in the DC area where you're coming from. But there's not a lot of understanding amongst the public about what these buildings are and what they do. Can you explain that to our viewers?
Sure. So data centers are where they store their information in the cloud. I mean, everybody saves their pictures. They got to go someplace. You do an AI search now. Every time you go on your iPhone, now it's an AI search. You're getting better information. So all that stuff has to go somewhere. And so these data centers are large, essentially warehouse buildings that have a tremendous amount of technology in them that does all this computing for us and our daily needs to very complicated calculations. So when you look at the buildings, they've all grown. They've gotten much, much bigger. When we were first looking at this 5 years ago, a data center of 50 megawatts was a really big deal. The campus we're looking at in the city of Fort Meade in Polk County is 1.2 gigawatts. A large one, but not the largest by far. So the dynamics around data centers have really changed, and what they do continues to evolve every single day as the technology advances.
It's like a giant processor and hard drive all in one.
Yeah, I mean, remember we talked about it.
Bring it down to my terms.
For those of us who are old, if you think back to the IBM commercial in the 1980s when they had the raised floors in the room and the guy walks in and says, "Where's my mainframe?" And in the corner was this rack with blinking lights. We just evolved. And now you go into these data centers, they're large halls, they have tons of racks, lots of blinking lights, and a tremendous amount of cooling because all of that computing and power generates heat, and we've got to keep the processors cool to be able to do their work.
Absolutely. And we'll talk about cooling a little bit later on, but first I think this is a good opportunity for you to introduce yourself. What's your role when it comes to this new data center?
Sure. So Stonebridge is a firm. We're based out of Bethesda, Maryland. As you talked, we're a stone's throw from the data center capital of the world in Northern Virginia. We made a decision about 3 or 4 years ago that we were going to focus on what's called large hyperscale campuses, these really large campuses. And we wanted to go to markets where we could get a large piece of land, that we could get a lot of power, and they tend to be, as in our case in Fort Meade, located right next to an energy production plant. So we're right next to Duke Energy Florida's Hines complex. It's not that the power technically comes from that complex, but it means the infrastructure, the transmission lines, all those things are at the best they can be when you locate next to it. So Fort Meade in Polk County became a great location because of its location next to the Hines Energy Complex in a county and a city that has been very supportive of the project, which we appreciate.
How many has your company built so far?
We're in the process of going out with these first large hyperscale campuses. Actually, Fort Meade will be our first large campus. We've developed other kinds of institutions, but in terms of these large campuses are relatively new. So the delivery of a gigawatt campus is a new part of the process.
Commissioner Braswell, the county commission voted to give a pretty substantial tax break to this project.
Right.
And it's something that has got a wide amount of support from the Board of County Commissioners. Can you explain for the residents why the board felt that it was important to support this project?
Sure, yeah. And it needs to be clear that even though we're giving them a tax break, they are paying a tremendous amount of taxes. I believe right out of the get-go, it's $15 million to the school board, something like that. I think the county gets a couple of million, and Fort Meade gets some crazy number like 20 million or something like that. Yeah. So it's a lot of dollars that the county and the city can do a lot with, and that's important. But it's some very high skill, high wage jobs. That's what we're always after. And what I like about it is the impact. It's very low impact. It's not like it's not like a warehouse. Trucks coming and going all day. It's not a lot of employees. It's kind of this inert thing sitting off to the side that generates a lot of tax revenue for the county. Like I said, brings in some really high paying jobs. Something that we talk about all the time. So yeah, it was easy for us to give them the tax break.
And let's talk about those jobs because we talked about the average salary of those being into the six figures.
Right.
And that's something that's really substantial for an area like Fort Meade.
Oh yeah, I mean that's substantial anywhere in Florida. I mean I think it's 110, 105, something like that thousand, and that's 50 people. I believe that would be the maintainers. But then you've got all the other people that maintain the building. And
yeah, I mean in terms of total employment, we expect to have over 450 employees when this project is completed. It's all at those salary levels. And while it's not the economic development focus, this project's going to take 6 years to build out. We're going to have over 2,000 construction trades at this project. So when you think about a construction job, you just think it's 12, 18 months and you're done. We're talking about 5 or 6 years of constant construction work. And one more thing excited about we talked to the commissioners about is the jobs programs that we're going to create and the training program with Polk State and the different universities around here as well as the high schools in terms of we're going to want trades at all levels. Yeah. So it's a really exciting opportunity to be able to work with the community and create these jobs.
And that's what we see it as, just a great opportunity.
Absolutely. And mentioning this is going to take 5 to 6 years to create. There might be some students out there in Polk County who see this data center being built and they think, hey, I want to go into computer science. I want to pursue this career. What fields and what avenues should they pursue if they want to further their interest in that and learn more about data centers and a potential career in the field?
Sure. I mean, it's the classic STEM, right? Science, technology, engineering, math are the obvious ones. But in terms of, we have incredibly high-end mechanical systems. So if someone wants to be part computer and part hands-on, there's an opportunity to work in the mechanical side. There'll be property management. So the range of employment is quite wide. And then, for people who don't want to be in STEM, be in construction, be in the maintenance side. So we have a wide variety of jobs in terms of what people will be able to be involved with. And that's what we're excited to get involved with the whole education process because it's 6 years of construction. It's 20 years are the initial commitments we get from the tenants. So we're looking at having long-term jobs for people and really want to make sure the local people have the opportunity to be trained and work at the project.
Absolutely. Now moving on, there's a lot of misinformation, disinformation, misconstrued facts, people who are talking and they don't really know what they're talking about when it comes to data centers online. They talk about water consumption and electricity being two concerns that they have. Can you talk about what the plant is going to do, specifically with the water, in order to preserve what we have here in Polk County?
Sure, and as we understand, water in Florida and Polk County is a really big deal. And there are certain hyperscalers who use a lot of water. And there's really two ends of the spectrum. You can do what's called an evaporative system, which is you have chilling towers and 40% of the water evaporates every day. And those kind of projects use millions of gallons a day. And there's plenty of them around the country. What we're talking about doing is what's called a closed loop system. So you fill it up with water once, and for all intents and purposes, you don't take any more water. So some analogies of typical water usage for one of our buildings, we're talking about building 8. There's a Wawa right that just opened right in Fort Meade. Mm-hmm. We're going to use the same amount of water that Wawa uses daily in one of our 8 buildings. So long term, we're not a big water consumer with the type of design that we're talking about doing here.
It's just a big radiator.
Yep.
Just keeps circulating around.
The water keeps circulating around. You have to fill it up once.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then in terms of electricity?
So that, everybody's worried about power. Right. And there have been, without question, places where people didn't plan properly and the power bills have gone, honestly, through the roof. A couple things that are factual here in Florida. One is FPL just went through its rate case that was resolved in November, and they agreed on a large load customer agreement. Duke has filed its rate case with the state, and they're having very isolated rates for the large load customers. So we're expected to pay for the infrastructure, so the enhancements that are required to get transmission to us, we're going to pay for those, and we're going to pay a rate that ensures the customers are not facing rate increases. And in particular, Fort Meade is going to get significant municipal tax and franchise fees related to the power. So that'll help them in their isolated case be insulated from rate increases.
Wonderful. Commissioner Braswell, why else are you excited about this project?
Well, I mean, it's something different. Yeah. It's the future. I mean, like you said, it's the cloud. I mean, we're bringing it to Polk County, and it's like I get excited about SunTrax and stuff like that. It's something new. It's technology that we don't have. And it's going to be around for a long time, and it's great to be on the cutting edge of it and not, following 20 years from now with it.
Absolutely. Mr. Firstenberg, I'd like to give you the last word. What makes this a match made in heaven for both the data center and for Meade and Polk County?
Well, continuing what the commissioner said,
Yeah.
this is infrastructure, but it's infrastructure that delivers tremendous economic benefits to the county and to the city. So we're excited about a project that we can bring to an area where it is a natural fit. We're over 1.5 miles from the closest residential site at this location. We're 1,300 acres. It's a 1/2 mile till we get from the closest building to our property line. So with that, the location next to the Duke Energy plant, it's really a perfect location to launch a hyperscale campus like this. And as the commissioner said, to be on the front end to help Florida get into this business, it's an underserved market. We're really excited about it, and we're pleased with the reception that we've had, certainly in the county, and the city's been working great with us. We have a lot of details to work out, and we're looking forward to doing that and bringing this project online in 2028, so it's right around the corner.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And I'd like to thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.